Hey everybody, this is Zemanon, coach of the Detroit Solgaleo. This is my first YouTube draft league, but to give you a little bit of background on myself, I'm a VGC player. I've been playing since 2014, but recently with some friends have been getting into the singles draft format battles, and it's been a lot of fun. And I am in the Season 3 of the LDL Evolution League. If you're not sure how it works, there's a main roster and then an evolution roster. Each division has 16 teams, and there's kind of like a relegation like in other sports where I believe the bottom 3 teams from the main roster at the end of the season move down to EVO, and then the top 3 teams from EVO move up to the main roster. So I'm excited for this opportunity. I'm going to go over my draft analysis. As you can see on the screen, this is the team I drafted for the EVO League this season. And overall, I think I did pretty well. I had most of my game plan stayed intact. I did have to switch some things around, which we'll get through. I'll talk about it pick by pick on some of the ideas I had. But so this is, I think, my 5th draft league overall I've been in. I've been in some offline things like a SoCal Discord and CantoCast League. Those are a lot of fun. Those are where I dip my toes in. Then my friend Lazy Ghost, who if you're in this league you know very well, he reached out to me asking if I wanted a shot in the Evolution League, and I was like, yeah, sure, why not? And I have the YouTube channel, so we'll see. I think this is a fun opportunity. So I honestly like drafting. That's more fun to me than playing. Obviously I have fun playing and watching the draft league battles and stuff, but like the actual drafting metagame is probably my favorite aspect of the leagues. Like I love helping my friends out if they're stuck between picks. I'll look at the sheet and see what's available and trying to game around what opponents are also going for in their drafts and trying to guess with that and leaving certain things open, like in fantasy football or fantasy baseball, which I do a lot of traditional fantasy sports. So I think I have a pretty good head around how to draft properly. But usually I just start, with a whim in the first round and then develop the plan from there. So for example, in the first round, I was looking at it. I was the 13th pick out of 16, so I knew I wasn't going to have, Tapu Koko or Victini or, Mew or something like that. I knew a lot of those top Pokemon were going to be taken, so I didn't have to worry about it. So I was thinking maybe I get Keldeo. I'm a big fan of Waters. Tapu Fini was taken, so I would have taken her if she wasn't. Even Starmie, but at tier 1, I wasn't too sure about that. Maybe if it was tier 2, I would have taken Starmie. But I actually lucked out because right before it was my turn to draft, it was either in the main league in the Discord or in the Evolution League, pointed out that Zeraora wasn't on the draft league or on the draft list. So people, you couldn't draft it because you weren't able to take it. And that reminded me, it sparked me. I'm like, oh, okay, I always want to try new things. So I took Zeraora as my first pick, and I think it's really good. It's super fast. I like the Volt Absorb. I love having fast electrics, and then I can kind of have some Pokemon on my team weak to electric because Zeraora is able to switch in freely. Surprising, not bulky, but a surprising amount of bulk for a sweeper. It's not like its defenses are in the 60s or anything. So it can usually take a hit from full depending on it. And I was very excited to have Zeraora and just see what happens with it. Then for my next pick, so how the draft works with snake drafts is when you're towards the end, the start of the second round flips in reverse. So now when you're towards the end, you pick in the earlier part of the next round. So I didn't have to wait too long. I only had 6 picks in between me and Celebi. In that time, Infernape got taken in tier 2. I was actually shocked to see it in that tier, but I was like, if it gets back to me, I'm taking it, no doubt. That's my favorite Pokemon. It's one of my favorite Pokemon. It's my favorite starter. And I was like, I have to take Infernape, but it got taken. So I settled for Celebi. I was like, oh, well, Celebi, that's another electric resist. So I have a resist and an immunity in Zeraora and Celebi, and I thought that would be defensive option, another Pokemon I have never really used in Draft League before, so I was excited for that. Then I have to wait a whole bunch of picks as it comes back around for me in round 3. And then I remembered watching, there's a Draft League YouTuber called Irish Emerald, and he, in the UBO, had Zeraora and Sylveon as a combination, and Sylveon is my favorite evolution. It's got great special defense, it's got a nice strong special attack. So I love that Pokemon, and he used the Zeraora Sylveon combination, like Volt Switch into Sylveon to tank a hit very effectively, so I thought that was a good idea. So I went with my second Tier 2 pick at that point, which was Sylveon. So, off the bat, Zeraora, Celebi, and Sylveon, I'm really liking how my team is working out right now. I have some defense, or some bulk in Celebi and Sylveon. I have some sweeping potential also, because I can make Spec Sylveon or fast Celebi or Zeraora, who's already fast. So after that, move down to the Tier 3 selections. And at this point, I honestly wasn't even looking too much at the start of Tier 3. And I just saw Nidoking was available, and I didn't, I'm like, oh, Nidoking, he's a great Pokemon. He's great in Tier 3. He's got a lot, great coverage, Stealth Rocks, good Scarf, Life Orb, make him bulky, make him fast. I think Nidoking is, a great Pokemon in the draft format, especially in Tier 3. So I didn't even look at what else was available in Tier 3. Probably should have taken a better look at it, but we went with Nidoking there for our 4th pick. And then before the draft even started, I knew I wanted Diancie on my team. Like how I was saying earlier, usually I try to just draft different things and I go around there. I just wanted to use Diancie. I've always, thought it was underwhelming with the 4 times weak to Steel. But it's such a cool Pokemon, and I love Generation 6, and I'm like, I want to give it a shot. I want to see if it can work. So I draft Diancie. Thankfully, it didn't get picked. And then I sent Lazy Ghost 5 picks because I was going to bed getting ready for work the next day. And I was like, this was a wheel pick. So I only had to wait 6 picks, mind you. So I sent him 5 picks after Diancie. I was like, for my wheel pick, can you take, here's a list of 5 Pokemon. And my number 1 choice was Mega Scizor. Just because I didn't even want Mega Scizor, to be completely honest, but I just know everybody, when they draft Diancie, they take a Scizor also to get rid of that priority bullet punch. It's just one of those yin and yang things that people do in draft leagues. So I just fell victim to it. I was like, all right, I want Mega Scizor, and then I listed like 3 other Pokemon after that. And by the time I woke up, I had hardly any of my Pokemon were available left in my list that I sent to Lazy Ghost. But thankfully, Incineroar was still available in Tier 3, and that was the one fire type that I knew I wanted. I wanted the Psychic immunity. I wanted the strong knockoff. There's really not a lot of good fire types towards the bottom of Tier 3, Tier 4, Tier 5. So I love the Intimidate. Could maybe help Zeraora live in Earthquake, depending on who the Pokemon is, giving or is using the Earthquake. The Intimidates can really help. So, and I love Incineroar as a VGC player. He's kind of like the recent mascot of Gen 7 VGC. So I was ecstatic to be able to get Incineroar. So at this point, we have our first 6 Pokemon: Zeraora, Celebi, Sylveon, Nidoking, Diancie, and Incineroar. And I think that's a really strong combination of. It's actually pretty slow for the most part. If you think about it, Nidoking is a middle tier. Celebi's 100. Sylveon and Incineroar in the 60s. Diancie's super slow, but then you have Zeraora, who's fast. So I'm kind of all over the place. And what I usually do in draft leagues is wait for other people to choose their megas, because I feel like I can use different megas, and it's not as important to me as the other tiered Pokemon are, unless I have a strong game plan, like if I was able to take Mega Scizor for that specific reason. But I usually just let the field wane out on megas, so that way I don't have to worry about taking it, so I can prioritize the tiered Pokemon. Because if everyone else has their megas, then nobody's going to snipe a mega away from me, right? So I realize back on another wheel. So I have my first pick, and then 6 picks later, I'll have my second one. The 3 people behind me, and after me. This is also how I try to game in like a regular fantasy sports draft. Is you look at what they have, and they already had water types, and they already had megas, all 3 of them. So I knew that they couldn't snipe a water away from me, because why were they going to draft 2 waters? And they couldn't snipe a mega because you only get 1 slot. So I went with Pelipper out of another tier 2, so I have 3 tier 2 mons now, knowing that nobody was going to be able to take Mega Swampert away, because that's the one thing you worry about when you draft like Sand or Rain or something like that, is once you show T-Tar or Excadrill or something like that, people can then snipe the other version of it away from you just so you don't get it. But knowing that no one could take Swampert away, I picked Pelipper first instead of Swampert, because if I took Mega Swampert, then maybe in those 6 picks someone might have just taken Pelipper as a snipe intentionally, so I didn't get it. But I really like the combination of Pelipper and Swampert. Yet again, another VGC core that I used a lot in 2018 that I know can work effectively in draft leagues. I mean, that's why Pelipper is tier 2, excuse me. I was surprised it was that high, but it definitely makes sense. You got the the rain boosted Scalds, Hurricane that doesn't miss, so you can hit some of those grass types that Swampert doesn't want to deal with, like Tangrowth or Celebi or something else around there. So I like that synergy. And the first draft league I was ever in, I had Ninetales and Alolan Sandslash. So that was a lot of fun to kind of balance the weather sweeping, and I like that kind of play style. So I'm excited to see how that works out for me in this league. So with those 8 picks, I'm actually pretty set. I know majority of the time I'm going to be bringing 6 of those 8 Pokemon, and I didn't know what else to cover. So I saw I had the psychic weakness in Nidoking, but then I had the immunity in Incineroar, and I was like, maybe I need another thing that handles psychics pretty well. And I am, again, still very slow. Pelipper 65 speed. Swampert outside of the rain is not fast at all. He's, in the 70s. So I was like, I need something fast that can handle psychic types. And Excelgor was available in tier 4. I was actually nervous that Excelgor wasn't going to stay around. So again, we're back at another wheel situation with these 2 picks 9 and pick 10. I wanted Machamp as a fighting type because I didn't have a fighting type yet. I could put Salt Vest or Guts, Flame Orb, whatever you want, but I think Machamp is a very strong Pokemon. And I wanted Excelgor because I wanted a fast Pokemon, because again, Machamp is very slow. So my method behind it was, the 3 teams ahead of me had fighting types already, but I think 1 or 2 didn't have a bug type. So Excelgor was more of a priority than Machamp in tier 3, because I assumed everyone was in tier 4, tier 5 mode in the draft at that point. So I assumed the odds of Excelgor coming back 6 picks later were less than Machamp, because everyone had their tier 3s already chosen. So that's why I went Excelgor, and then on the swing back, I went Machamp. So then I had one last pick, which was the Dusclops Mono Ghost. I love Dusclops Eviolite. It's so bulky. You just kind of be a nuisance to your opponent. I usually do draft. I drafted a lot in tier 5. I was even thinking of taking Dusknoir in tier 4, but I decided the Excelgor with the speed was more important. And yeah, Dusclops is just a fun Pokemon that I pretty much, when I have that last tier 5 slot remaining, I just I'll go Dusclops and see what happens. I don't bring it too often, but it is fun to bring sometimes. So there is our whole team overall. I think I have a fun team. I don't know how well it's going to work out, but I'm very happy with the Pokemon that I do have. Like, I've wanted to use Zeraora since it came out. I've always wanted to use Diancie. I think Mega Swampert is pretty cool when you put it with Rain. Sylveon is like one of my top 5 favorite Pokemon. I've never used Celebi before. Pretty much the only one I've actually used before in draft leagues are are Nidoking and Dusclops. Everyone else is brand new experience for me, and just some of my favorite Pokemon, either in general or from my VGC background. So I'm very excited. I know later this week I have my first match against Maralt. He's out in Europe. We'll see how that goes, and who knows what'll happen. Maybe if I get lucky enough, I can move up to the main roster for the next season of the LDL. But for now, we'll be hanging out in the Evolution League and having fun. And shout outs to Jetman and Lazy Ghost for messaging me, and anyone else in charge of the league for giving me this opportunity. I am very excited about it. So with that, this is, if you want to follow me on Twitter, it is Zemanon, Xeminan. Same, I stream on Twitch, so twitch.tv/Zemanon. Or you can just hit subscribe, and later on this week you'll get that first match of the LDL Evolution League, and hopefully, fingers crossed, I'll be able to upload every match from this season. So subscribe to stay tuned, and if you want to leave a comment letting me know how you think I did in my draft, or some of your favorite Pokemon that you like to use in draft leagues, so I can keep that in mind for future drafts, I'd really appreciate it. But for now, this is Zemanon and the Detroit Solgaleo signing off.